Brian, thanks very much for taking the time to chat to us. It's a very important day for the visually impaired and blind people. It's a great step forward.
Yeah, it's an incredible piece of kit called Field of Vision. I suppose able-sided people don't have a full understanding around the limitations of live sport for the visually impaired. So this incredible piece of kit developed by 3 good Northside boys, and ultimately it's about the feel and sensation of where the ball is over the course of the game through AI, being able to, and a magnetic field of being able to sense through touch as well as through commentary as to what the peaks and troughs of the game, who has possession, passes, kicks, tries, etc. So in real time they're getting full immersion within the sport, which is brilliant.
And you can just imagine this is probably the first stage of this.
Yeah, it is, and like listening to Omar, one of the founders, who was talking about the capacity for this to be devices to be had at home watching TV. We were just talking through just working through the nuances of slight delays in footage and commentary coming in. So it's they're close, and they're asking Martin, who's Guinness ambassador, alongside me, would he trial it, and he was very excited at the prospect of being able to get that another sense along with the commentary of what he's hearing via Michael Corcoran or on the TV with you guys in Virgin. So it's a really, really great piece of kit. And I suppose, who would have known there's 270 million visually impaired people in the world, 300,000 people in Ireland. It's a lot of people that are missing out, and for this to add an additional component to their overall experience is brilliant.
And we saw obviously some great tries from the past. You were mentioned in a couple there, but let's talk about the here and now. Overall, halfway through this Six Nations tournament, what's your assessment been of the Ireland performances so far?
I think they've been great for the most part. Obviously, it's not always perfect, and it's never a perfect run to put yourself in a position to win championship or to win a Grand Slam. They're still on target in doing so, and there's always speed bumps, and they certainly encountered one against Wales and navigated their way brilliantly through it. You're not always going to be 9 out of 10, and good sides at 6.5, 7 out of 10 are able to find a way to win against an unbelievably resurgent Welsh team that really put it to them. So I think the early performance, particularly second half against England, very, very competent performance against Scotland, and a different sort of successful performance against Wales, but almost equally encouraging that they can win different ways, and no panic. I think that's the big thing, that there was, maybe we were all panicking at home. I was certainly standing up in front of the TV a little bit more than I usually would, but there's a calmness and such a process-driven team this side that they're almost emotionless around what's happening, going on, and just thinking about the next action that they're going to be involved in.
When you're going into a game like that Wales game, you've been there, you've experienced teams that have been successful. You're heavy favourites going into it against a team who've lost, 14 in a row. Is there almost a sense of trying to get yourself up for the game? Not that it's done purposely, but it's there because you've been so successful. How do you continue to motivate these players when it's the job that I'm not saying they think they'll fall over the line, but it's a game that they should win?
You can't fight the subconscious, it's working behind the scenes, and it's human nature to be very uber focused for the best teams, and it's a natural slight drop off, even though there'll be huge respect for Wales, and going over to Wales has always been a difficult place to go and play. But on the back of 14 losses, the high expectation of success, those factors are immediately going to be working against you, and then you're a little bit off kilter, and they're very good. It's always going to level the playing field. So to find a way to battle through that, being 18 points to 10 down, with half an hour to go, and then not really missing a beat, is a huge credit to them. It's interesting, listening to reports of Brian Fenton coming in to camp, talking about that aerial contest game, but also tapping into that three-piece mentality around the expectation and the pressure that comes with being favourites, and how do you deal with it, and how do you park out the noise and kind of deal in the moment. So obviously it's being able to tap into that intel is all important. It shows a capacity to grow as well, and that they don't have all the answers.
Is Ireland's strongest quality at the moment their strength and depth? As you said, 30 minutes to go, down to 14, and you're able to bring on players who do make such a big difference.
Yeah, I thought the bench were very, very good. I thought, Ryan Baird, I thought Jack Conan was excellent in the first half. He just offers something that we don't have a lot of those types of players of those hard yards, and he's been really good for us this Six Nations off the bench. And then Baird very good, Gus McCarthy really good, Jack Boyle coming on for his first cap, huge scrum 5 metres out along with Finlay Beelum coming again. That all those players are bench players, and it's here the old starters and finishers. It's true. You don't want to bring people on for parity. You want to bring them on for improvement and bring the team to the next level. And I think there was a real emphasis in that regard. Jack Crowley was another one that had some good involvements. Bundy was exceptional again, as he always is. So there's 6 of your 7 or 7 of your 8 forwards or backs substitutes coming on doing a brilliant job. Just speaks volumes for that strength and depth.
I think there's that iconic picture of Bundy after the game covered in nearly all of the pitch, and I have to ask you about that position in centre. You've got Bundy, you've got Gary, Robbie, more there if you wanted, but if you look at those 3, if you're head coach tomorrow, what 2 do you start?
I think right now you're probably looking on the back of, all you can work on is the back of the last performance, and who's earned the right to retain a jersey. I think you'd have to say right now, Bundy came on, had a phenomenal performance. He's never been disappointing for Ireland. I think it's an unusual situation we find ourselves in, because nearly always one of them has been injured, and so to have the 3 of them fit for an extended period of time has been the headaches that you dream of, but they're all really top quality players. And Jamie Osborne, fourth in the shadows as well, waiting for his opportunity. I thought Robbie did really well in Gary's absence for that 20 minutes, made lots of really great defensive reads as well, and probably didn't get the credit he deserves. So I think we'll have to wait and see what comes of Gary's hearing, whether he picks up a ban. But I think Bundy +1 right now, but we're very lucky that it doesn't really matter what combination you play with. They're all comfortable with one another. They've all excelled in partnerships, and they've all played together enough times not to have any nervousness.
Of course, it's been that great. Then I suppose newspaper challenge between Jack and Sam. Who's going to start? It's been Sam so far. Has that been the correct decision, do you think?
Whether it's correct or not, we don't know the alternative, do we? We don't know what great a job that Jack would have done, which I've been really impressed with him. His reaction from the disappointment of maybe not seeing out full games in November, playing well for Munster, coming on and doing a great job against England, closing that game out extremely well. I thought he's been really good coming on at 15 as well, defensively very assured. So I think we're in a very fortunate position right now that we've got 2 players of very, very high quality that we can rely on. I think Jack has definitely evolved into understanding the nuances of 10 a little bit more, what the expectation is for him in creating space for others, squaring up to the line. Or I would say Sam probably gets that a little bit more naturally, but it's still kind of somewhat toss of a coin stuff. I think Sam has done well and got himself out of a couple of holes on occasions, which is brilliant for a guy of 21, 22 years of age, and he's learning from every experience. He's got 5 caps, so giving him the air miles that he's getting, and then having the opportunity to bring Jack on, maybe at 10, maybe at 15, I'm sure he can play 12, is a real luxury that we have right now.
It's a nice headache for the coach.
It's a lovely headache to have. It's a lovely headache.
Can I ask you about the squad age? We have a lot of players who are kind of the later part of the 20s, and a good few over 30, looking even at Bundy's age, which kind of still shocks me at times. Are you worried in any way, shape or form about maybe the age profile of the squad? Have we enough coming through that when some of those players decide to hang up their boots, that the continuation of the success in Ireland will continue? Can't crystal ball it, can you? There's a huge amount of work goes on in the provinces, in the academies with the IRFU, developing the next generation. You see it in the school system, and then you see it with the integration of players coming through into those provincial setups.
the emergence of the likes of Jack Boyle coming on and getting his first test start, just as Cian Healy is coming to the winter of his career, is important timing. But all great nations have depth, in substitutes and probably a third in reserve as well, and that's what we need to build towards. It's challenging because you've only got 4 professional teams. You want to keep everyone happy. You want to give everyone game time. People will want to play for their home province, but yet Leinster's strength would suggest that you're going to have to park certain players, maybe at hooker, one of them in an alternative province, to make sure they're getting the necessary game time. So again, nice headaches, but at the same time, it's never easy just to manage it all and get the most and best out of everyone involved. So that's why Andy Farrell has done such a great job, and in his absence, Simon Easterby seems to be doing a great job and saying the right things and looks relatively unflappable. So all the signs are looking very positive right now, but another absolute monster performance against France needed.
Well, listen, there's just a few more questions to go. We'll get to that now. France next, and Antoine Dupont, how do we beat them?
Listen, you just have to stop the go forward, don't you? I think the game was won and lost at ruck time, at collision zone, around slowing the opposition's ruck ball down. They've got such an incredible power game. I cover the game for ITV on Sunday, in Italy, France, and to be able to bring 7 forwards off the bench. I don't think they'll do that against us, but as that bomb squad have been able to introduce almost full new pack with 35 minutes to go. As reward for doing a great job for half your game, you have to get fresh legs coming at you. It's an unenviable task, and think about the power they have up front. The quality at hooker, the strength and depth, having Marchand on the bench, Guillard coming through with Miafu out injured, who's a man mountain. Aldrit was probably a bit quiet at the weekend, and Gelon's coming back from injury. They do have a feast of riches up front, and then some real quality in the outside back domain. 3 very exciting wingers, particularly Bielbieri, and I think Pinot will probably come back in for the Ireland game, and then you move Ramos to 10 and Leo Barry comes in and has a stormer at 15, and they've got headaches of their own. Ntamak will come back and available for the game, but do you change a team that put 73 points on Italy? It's tough.
It's a little
few
scary,
conversations, tough conversation to have with guys that have done all right, and then that's not even mentioning Antoine Dupont, who's definitely the best player in the world, and scored 2, created 3. So you have to hope that he has an outing like he had against England, but that's about shutting him down and making sure that he doesn't have the space and the capacity to do what he loves to do.
Do you think where Ireland are now after those 3 results, and especially the feeling after the Welsh game, that they couldn't be in a better position to win the Six Nations now again?
Yeah, listen, you France at home, Italy away. I think there's always an expectation when you play Italy that you would have too much firepower for them, and I think that's giving them the utmost respect as well, that we're right now, you look at where the teams are ranked, the quality that Ireland have possessed over the last 3-4 years, and particularly on the back of where France put them to the sword. I think the big one now from our perspective is having France at home. It was a great game 2 years ago. I think it was an 8 or 9 point game. You'd anticipate it might even be tighter this time round. Our Achilles heel has maybe been that crazy power game that we've struggled with in the past when teams have gotten on top of us, be it South Africa or New Zealand, and this will be no different. Whether they go 6-2 or 7-1 on the bench, we'll have to wait and see, but it's managing the pack, and then Antoine Dupont, and then those small guys out the backs as well. So it's going to be a huge challenge, but will be a bit of a challenge to them as well. We've got some relatively handy players in good form right now too.
Final question to you then about those foreign players. Andy Farrell has a bit of a task on his hands this summer to choose a line squad. How many of the Irish team would you take?
It's so hard. I think it changes every week, doesn't it? Where you play well and your team has a good victory. The conversation you have after Scotland versus the one after Wales will differ. But I think there's a lot of guys putting their name in the hat. And I think certainly someone like Finlay Bealham, who probably would not have been discussed at all at the start of the year with some of his performances in November and when he started, and particularly when he came off the bench at the weekend and really shored things up. I think all of a sudden now, in Ty Furlong's absence, he's got to have his name thrown in the mix.
And is this something at the back of your mind at this time? Obviously you're focused on the Six Nations, but somebody like Josh van der Fleer, World Player of the Year, hasn't been a Lion yet.
Gary Ringrose hasn't been a Lion. Yeah, of course.
Is it something that's there?
Yeah, of course it is. There's extra flavour involved in a Lions year. But the best way of becoming a Lion is winning a Six Nations championship, is pooling your energy together as a collective, and then you'll excel and you'll be able to see the quality shine through. So they're a very tight team. They're very single focused around winning, and that's almost like a secondary thought, but it's a thought that exists, and I'm sure they will quietly have aspirations all to be Lions. And right now, you'd imagine there'll be the guts of 15 of them at least, but we'll have to wait and see what happens in the next 2 games. There'll be injuries, other guys will come to the fore, some people will fade away, and that's just the reality of a Lions year, that the team you select now will be so far away from the first test team. No one ever gets it right.